Guys, I'm back. I hope you've been waiting for my new analysis, joining the dots, right? I read this article, right? And this article says essentially, uh, afterglow of the G20 presidency. This is Prashant Jha. India-Canada relations are the big. So this is the glow, right? And I don't even. It's the glow of the G20 presidency is fast wearing off. Now, why it's fast wearing off are in the flames that are in Manipur, right? Because see, protests, vandalism, arson continue to rock Manipur. Srinagar SSP repatriated to Manipur amid fresh unrest. Banker, a Manipur tribal, attacked in Assam. Mobs tried to storm home of CM and a BJP MLA, and the BJP headquarters was burned down. I don't know how many of you people know. They've not put it out on the news, right? Manipur remains on edge. Protests violate curfew amid flare-up. Government repatriates Srinagar top cop to Manipur. And look at this, how it goes overseas to China. Protect worship places, properties of displaced SC panel to Manipur. Wushu player from Manipur breaks down, dedicates silver medal to state, and this is in China, right? Another place where obviously domestic politics is flowing into foreign policy. Aizawl ignores Delhi, won't do biometrics of Myanmar refugees. And let me tell you, it was a storm and it's brewing. No matter how much we try to whitewash it, not put it out in the papers, right? The very fact that this happened, it says EAM Sullivan hold meet agreed to take forward ties, and this is the stupid Prashant Jha because he's always trying to report in favor of the government. But this is the truth. Chidanand Rajghatna. You hear this? Muddy waters at foggy bottom. Muddy waters at foggy bottom. US-India blues over Canada spat. Now hear this, right? The shadow of the India-Canada spat over the alleged New Delhi hand in killing of Sikh terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar is hanging over bilateral engagements between India and the United States that began here on Thursday. There are unmistakable frostiness in the fall air as State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller declined to preview the conversations U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will have in his meeting with his counterpart Jaishankar on Thursday afternoon, even as he said Washington had raised the Nijjar killing issue with New Delhi and encouraged them to cooperate with the Canadian investigation. This ain't happened, right? And guys, just think about it. You are the smallest economy of the lot. You don't look at the GDP. GDP is related to your population. Look at the per capita income. You're at the bottom, $2,000. $2,000. That doesn't make you a power. That makes you even a wannabe power difficult without the help of Canada and the United States, right? And Michael Kugelman then writes, India-Canada relations in crisis. He's right. It's hard to overstate the significance of Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's revealing on Monday that his government has been investigating credible allegations of the involvement of Indian government agents in the assassination of a Sikh separatist leader and Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. He said, and let me just give you a little bit of background, right? In 84, Sikh separatist extremists took over a revered Sikh temple in Amritsar. India prompted then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to order a military operation that killed hundreds of people. Later that year, Gandhi was assassinated by two of her Sikh bodyguards, and Hindus retaliated. Just remember, this is what I've always said it was all about. It was not versus Congress versus the Sikhs. It was a Hindu-Sikh conflagration even then, right? Just like what's happening in Manipur. It's absolutely violence against the Christians. It's ethnic cleansing. It's same thing. This is also about communal flare-up. And like I said, the diaspora globally doesn't watch it, they've got a huge problem coming their way, right? Because this is going to come right their doorsteps, right? It's no point supporting India if you're a Canadian or an American or Australian. There is no point, right? And what do you have here? Later that year, Gandhi was assassinated by two of her Sikh bodyguards, and Hindu retaliated with attacks against the Sikh community, the worst religious violence since the partition of India. In 85, Canada directly experienced Sikh extremist violence when terrorists planted a bomb on AI jet flying from Montreal to London, killing all 329 passengers and crew members on board. And let me just tell you, I saw this front and center. I was in the United States, but my uncle was appointed as the High Commissioner to Canada in June of 85, and just as he was appointed, this happened. And I remember visiting him in 1986 with my parents, and there were guards everywhere. Right? A separatist insurgency was active in Punjab until the mid-90s, and India has long accused Pakistan. Okay, fine. Their bilateral ties seem to be losing the capacity to withstand shocks, which is an ominous sign for India. This is an ominous sign for Canada. Just let's not overthink our importance, right? Canada is one of its key defense and commercial partners and a major investor. It is also home to rapidly growing Indian diaspora and a top destination for Indian students. So the Indian students and the Indian diasporas in Canada has to be very careful, right? Other countries that are home to many people sympathetic to Sikh separatist cause, Australia, Canada, the UK and the United States are all members of the Five Eye Intelligence Alliance. Ottawa's allegations could increase other members' concerns about their own security. So they are worried, folks. But Canada's Western allies will likely hold back from confronting India out of fear of antagonizing the government there, just as they have when it comes to expressing worries about New Delhi's democratic backsliding. India is about democracy and China taking on China, right? Still, the Western countries may be willing to overlook threats to democracy in India due to strategic imperatives. They can't just shrug off Trudeau's allegations. That is the point, folks. You gotta remember, no matter what anybody says, no matter what stories are being spread everywhere else, because the stories are being planted in Canada by China. Because they're basically suggesting that this and in India so that it can be said that this whole process is the responsibility of the United States. India's Canadian problem, very well written by Tavleen Singh. Gotta hear this. Nothing puzzles me more about Narendra Modi's policies than why he has revived the myth of Khalistan. Why has his government been so determined to revive this phantom secessionist movement that senior ministers called the farmers' long agitation against the farm laws a Khalistani plot? So this has been brewing for a long time, right? She says, when the Indian state is seen to be unjust, there will be unrest not just in Punjab and Kashmir, but across India. You've seen that in Manipur and among Muslims and Sikhs in the Indian diaspora. Important to note, Indian diaspora reacts to Ottawa's allegations. Some in Canada, South Asian communities see Nijjers killing as signs of growing rift outside India. Look at this. Sikh in Britain's fear for life after India brands him enemy of state, right? Canada says its citizens are worried about foreign interference. Canadian envoy United meets Indian counterpart. Like I said, in flames. Manipur students clash with security forces. 30 injured. 2 Meiteis hacked in fresh Manipur horror. 12. And here we talk about our democracy, right? That's the big thing. 12-year-old Sikhs help after rape turned away. Assam, Meghalaya villagers target each other with catapults, bows and arrows. The employment of puzzle. And this is what I said, the second stump. The second pillar. One is your democracy, one is your China take on, and the third is your economy. It's not singing, folks. At $2,000, look at China with a $13,000 or $14,000 per capita income. Can't even dream of getting into be a high income company. They're stuck at $13,000. We are at 2,000, and the reason was because the population stopped growing, and we now have the same problem as a lowest income country, right? He says the employment puzzle, unless job creation picks up, there's a risk of the country turning old before it becomes rich. So don't look at these dreams, right? PM Modi positions India's future growth powerhouse. I'm not sure how, especially like this. India aging rapidly, 60 plus will make up 15% of population by 2036. There goes our dreams of becoming a powerhouse. And also because of this, India maintains 40th position in Global Innovation Index for 2020. 40th. We want to be the world's leading power. Ain't gonna happen. And this is why we are retaining 40th is because of what Peter Ronald D'Souza writes, failing Ashoka. It's a name that carries a heavy moral load. Are the trustees of Ashoka University up to the task? And they are not, right? And this is where Manipur has moved overseas. Manipur tribal outfits members at Sarai Gurdwara raises red flags. A lot more red flags are going to be raised. And we thought, like I said, G20 shows value of India's stake in other countries' foreign policies. For a while it did. Because what the US wanted, tried very hard. Like I said, the US has been, kind of putting its chessboard together, just like it did in the 80s, where it kind of had ping pong diplomacy with Mao and out and bought China out. The whole point of that thing was to break the USSR up. USSR had already made a mistake by going into Afghanistan, expending its resources, and then came along China, which kind of built a bulwark on this side, and guess what happened? USSR broke up. Russia has made the same mistake by going into Ukraine. The US is doing exactly what they did in the same thing in Afghanistan, supplying Ukraine arms and letting them take on the fight. And what they wanted from India was this. India may rival China to lead global south. The G20 reveals a shifting world order as written by Walter Russell Mead. He says, Global Gabfest really produced significant results, and last weekend's Group of 20 summit in New Delhi was no exception. The carefully drafted and painfully negotiated declarations will be forgotten as quickly as all its predecessors. That's what's happened. Absolutely, like I told you. The war in Ukraine will rumble on exactly as if the language on the war had not been tweaked to favor the Russians' position. The invitation to the African Union to participate in the future G20 summits won't change the way the world works. Remember this. The first and from an American standpoint, the most beneficial of these developments is the emergence of India as one of the world's leading powers and as an increasingly close partner of the United States. And that's exactly what the US has been trying to do. Came to India, tried to do that, build the glow, right? We are just burning it down, right? We're burning that house down. When India and China speak for global south, it says Delhi is looking to act as a bridge between different countries while Beijing is being drawn by what it decries the Cold War mentality. The United States up for it. And this is the entire chessboard. Taiwan reveals its first locally built submarine as China threat grows. Removed China barriers at Shoal and SCS Manila. Big thing. Biden to host leaders of Pacific Island to counter China influence. This is Philippines already there. Pacific Islands also now moving towards the United States. He's made a connect he's made a play back with Saudi Arabia, and there's a news here in the foreign policy press which says that which you ought to read, that he's making a play here too. Biden takes aim at Putin's soft underbelly in Central Asia. Moscow's war in Ukraine has created an opening for Washington as a new great game heats up. Manila accuses Beijing of placing floating barrier in South China. See, US agreement plans factories in Congo. This is Africa, and not only that, there's news that the minister of state in the state minister in the United States or the defense minister is in touring Africa. US agreement plans factories in Congo, Zambia to meet EV demand. US an optimal choice partner for India, and that's a fact, right? But how do you play this out? India-Russia ties steady for last 70 years EAM. Well, okay, fine. Railway inks pact with Indo-Russian JV for Vande Bharat trains, but they already had a problem earlier. Vande Bharat deal, Russian company and RVNL asked to settle issue. Now let me ask you this. There's no expertise Russia has in special trains, right? Why would we tie up with Russian company, right? Nor do they have the technology, nor do they, when they have they won't be able to source any parts. Let me tell you why. Because all the money the oil money that is stuck in India is being used here. But like I said, as far as America is concerned, happy. It's got what it wanted. Macron pushing Europe into 900 billion fight with China. US will be India's best natural ally for 100 years, says Jamie Dimon. Taps for money opened into India. Now, can we absorb it just like China was able to? That's what's critical. Hindi, Chini, India, Apple crop sparks a social media battle. Crazy as it may sound, but that's what Chinese are going to do. The batteries are made there, and they're still bitching and moaning, right? So, vying for dominance. This was what it's all about, written by Alexander Shah. US President Joe Biden touched down in India on Thursday in anticipation of much heralded G20, and he's already making waves. Capitalizing on the looming absence of China's President Xi Jinping and Russia's President Vladimir Putin, Biden was quick to assert US dominance over the economic bloc and remind developing countries that Washington is their best ally for advancement. This will be Xi's first time missing the summit since coming to power in 2013, and it is second consecutive year that Putin is skipping out. So that, folks, is something that the way the US views it, no matter which way we do. Then, Biden hopes that Xi's absence at G20, which runs from 9 to 10, will demonstrate that Beijing is in no position to help developing countries. especially as it fails to alleviate its own deflation and property crisis. China's yuan slid to a 16-year low on Thursday as the US dollar gained strength. So all those guys about yuan and decline of dollar, well, forget about it, folks. Right? Following the G20, Biden is set to visit Vietnam for 2 days to strengthen bilateral ties with the growing economic hub. So just look at this expanse from the ocean to Africa, to the Middle East, to Vietnam and India. That's what Biden was doing, laying down, as they say in Hindi, Chaucer Bishare, right? Expansionist China looms large over Indo-Pacific Army Chiefs conclave. That was an important. India's internal labor must jointly create the Asian century, says Beijing. Beijing had to say something. India moves to secure key flashpoints at LAC. And the other victory that the US is having is in Ukraine. Like I said, Ukraine strikes Russia's base for Black Sea Fleet in Crimea. Okay. Biden offer Kiev advanced missiles for counterattack. Troops breach Russian main southern line of defense. Oh man, and that's like what it is all about, folks. I am not going to next time talk about Canada, but here's what it is. The United States has laid down the chessboard now. This chessboard this time, like the previous one, was to destabilize and break up Russia, the USSR, which it's done. This one that it's being laid down now, and the results will be probably viewed in many, many years, is all about China. And India's play in this, folks, is about China and its democracy and its centrality in the Pacific or Indo-Pacific strategy. However, the stuff that we have going for us, like democracy is sliding, and this is what everybody's talking about. There are fires in our backyard. Like Tavleen said, why is this Khalistani issue being raised, and what's happening in Manipur, why nobody's talking about it, and why there is no control over it. And the economy. Let's just don't look at the stock market or the headlines. You got to look at what the per capita income, the current account deficit, which has been sliding for 7 years, exports that have been rising for 7 years, the unemployment rate that's been rising, and it's the highest ever. That, folks, is a critical thing that we need to watch out and control. 3 cheers and Jai Hind.